Righto guys, so in order to keep this test as real world as possible, I've had to do a lot of things to the Range Rover in order to get it back to as close to possible as stock as I can in regards to weight and tyre size and things like that. So what you see here, I've got my 33s off, I've put the standard tyres back on, I've got my roof rack off, my drawers, my fridge is out, I've got my toolbox here, which I've already taken out as well, and all of my drawers plus the contents that were in the drawers. So the aim here obviously is to reduce the weight that's in the car, and I think I've done a pretty good job given all of this was in the back of my car. That should have reduced a significant amount of weight. The fridge, I think there's about 20 kilos in that. This box here would easily be 30 with the tools and spare parts that I'm running. Between these drawers, there's probably about another 40, 50 kilos. The roof rack's quite light, that would only weigh about 15 kilos. But the drawers themselves, the housing for the drawers, now that's a lot of weight right there. Just by removing that, I would say that there's close to 50 kilos just in that. So when you combine that with these drawers, there's 100 kilos on its own. All of this stuff that I've just taken out of the back of my car, I would say there'd be an easy 200 kilos in that, and that's not even a camping load. So you can imagine once I've got the fridge full, I've got the roof rack on there with the tents and you know, the bedding and all other things, camp chairs that you take camping with you. So it's very interesting to see how much has actually come out of the back of my car, and this is stuff that was in there every day. I drive around town, go to work, all of that kind of stuff with this in the back of my Range Rover every day. Very interesting. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to rotate them. This will be the first time that I've rotated these tyres in the entire time I've had them. I don't have the 6 one. I was going to get a 6, but I don't think I'm going to need it. They're wearing that good, and I haven't had a puncher. And I've punished them. There are the occasional chip in these tyres. It would take me a bit to find one specifically that has a decent chip out of it, but given the driving that they've done, I think that's pretty reasonable. So now I've just got to work out a rotating pattern. So I think what I'll do is I'll take that left front and I'll put it as the spare now because it's the worst of the lot. But I'll be honest with you, the other 3 are actually much of a muchness. They're all pretty well the same. So I'll put that spare on the left front and I'll keep the other 3 pretty much where they are because I don't see a problem with how the other 3 are wearing. They're all exactly the same. So it seems pointless to me to do a front to rear rotation if they're all exactly the same. And there was no balance issues or anything like that with any of them, and the spare has been balanced as well. So guess what I'm going to be doing now? Just rotation. Alrighty, back to it. Alrighty guys, so here we are again. We've topped the tank up, just about to head out on the highway loop with the 33-inch tyres and 2-inch suspension lift. So let's see how we go. Okay guys, so you can see there that I'm sitting at about 93 kilometers an hour on the speedo here, just over 2,000 RPM. And I've got about 16.7 according to the trip meter for the fuel consumption so far. I'm only about 10 or 15 k's in, so there's nothing to it. So 93 on the speedo. And if you look up here, which is just basically a diagnostic tool specifically for Land Rovers. And what I've got up there, which you can't see because the glare is pretty bad for you, is the engine load, engine temp, coolant temp, that is, road speed. So I've calibrated this for the larger size tyres as well. And I've got the engine speed up there. What interests me with this is the coolant temperature. So I don't know if you can see clearly there, but it's saying about 92.2 degrees there. And this here is saying 85. So it's about 7 degrees in it. but I thought I'd compare the two because obviously the diagnostic one over here, that's feeding from the engine coolant temp sensor, which is on the engine block, whereas the gauge that I've got down here is just feeding from the top radiator hose. Just something to keep an eye on, and then I can monitor and guesstimate that that's usually about 7 degrees cooler than what the actual temp is, and that'll come into play later in the video, guys. Beautiful day for a drive again. A little bit windy like yesterday. Still just sitting at 100 k's an hour, cruising along. This is a beautiful drive. I do enjoy coming out this way, and it's lovely and green at the moment here with the hills in the background. It just looks amazing. But what I wanted to talk about a little bit more is going from a 30-inch tyre up to a 33-inch tyre. What do I notice so far? I mean, obviously the speedo's a bit different. I can tell you that the ride is definitely different. So I'll be honest with you, the car's controlling a lot better on the 33-inch tyres than it was on the 30-inch tyres. The ride is definitely smoother, and we're running much the same pressures. I've got 35 in the fronts and 40 in the rears. But yeah, it's definitely smoother, and because I've got obviously an exhaust system on this V8, with the revs sitting down at about 2,000, it's actually quieter in the car at 100 k's an hour than it was with the smaller tyres having to sit at 2200, 2300 revs. It's noticeably quieter in the car right now, and given that they're a mud tyre, the 33s, I'm quite surprised that there is no road noise. I can't hear the tyres at all, so that's really good. It's a positive to bring from this, if anything. The trip computer is still saying it's about 2 litres to the 100 higher according to the trip computer, but that's going to be out because obviously I've affected the speedo and all of that kind of stuff by putting the taller tyres on. But yeah, we'll definitely see how that goes when we get to the Bowser. We'll see if it makes a difference. My theory is that the taller tyres are going to improve the highway fuel consumption, but around town I think they're going to affect it more. See if that theory comes true. I love me that servo food. So we've just done the highway run with the 2-inch lift and the 33s. Still got standard weight, so there's no weight difference other than the fact the tyres are probably a little bit heavier than the wheels that came off with the standard tyres. Same exact run. The conditions were much the same, except there wasn't a car crash this time, so I didn't pull up and help anyone out. I was very surprised with how much fuel he used. It's very interesting anyway, I'll say that. I'll show you the results at the end of how that run went. So I'm going to mung down a feed real quick now, and I'm going to hit the town loop with the big tyres and the 2-inch lift. We'll see how it's affected that. So where we are now, we're sort of at the start of where the Strand begins. So that's the marina there. Beautiful little spot. You can see all the boats there berthed up. Go back around this way. We've got the casino in the distance there. You can't quite see it through the trees and whatnot. This park right here is called Anderson Park. Beautiful little spot. Some old historic buildings over here. Great part of Townsville. You got the memorial over there, the Anzac Memorial. Lovely little park, beautiful stuff. And then further up here, you got some units and whatnot, and then an ice cream shop just to the left of where we are now. Lovely little area. It's a beautiful, lovely shady little drive, and you just cruise along and take it in. You can sort of just see Magnetic Island through the trees there. A little bit of Magnetic Island visible. If you ever come to Townsville, you've got to check this out. Another beautiful day down the street here. You can see there's pretty much every car spot. It's full here now. There's a lot of people down here having a look. They're all going for a drive and checking the place out. That's Stinger enclosure that you could see yesterday down there. You can't even see it from here now. It's actually quite full of people. Lovely. So if you come here on a weekend, it's a Saturday today. If you come here on a weekend, you'll find it'll be a bit busy, but it's good, and it's so calm out there right now. Look at that water. There's not a wave to be had. It'd be perfect for swimming in, especially if you've got little kids. Clear, so calm, beautiful. Apparently it's 33 degrees right down here, so about the same as yesterday. Lovely day to get down to the beach and go for a swim, I reckon. Alright, so what I took down from the first two runs, the GPS, when I was completely standard, said that I did 107 k's on the highway. The dash said I did 103.2. Mind you, the standard tyres that I run on this thing were a 255 60/18, which are actually one size up from standard. What I did note, and you've probably seen there, is that my speedo was reading dead accurate with the GPS, with the standard tyres on, which are one size up. So that was really, really good, but it doesn't explain why there was about a 4 kilometre difference between the GPS and the odometer, or trip computer reading, sorry. From the fuel consumption figures that I've got here, I actually got slightly worse on the highway run than what the dash said. With the around town run, it was also slightly worse than what the dash said I was getting. They're never perfectly accurate. It was close, but it was slightly higher than what I was being told in there, especially given that the speedo was reading exactly right with the GPS, but the trip computer was a little bit down. So I guess you could say that if the odometer was reading accurately with the distance that the GPS told me that I'd done, maybe the dash readout would have been a little bit different. Who knows? That's a variable. These are computers estimating, I guess. With the 2-inch lift and 33-inch tyres on, the reading was again worse on the highway than what the trip computer said. Likewise, with the around town run, it was reading worse on the dash. Now that's going to be the case because at 100 k's an hour, by the dash, I'm sitting at about 93, 94 kilometres an hour. So the trip computer is well and truly reading out for that. So that was to be expected. Wasn't as bad as I thought it would be, especially around town. I was actually okay with that kind of fuel consumption. It didn't affect drivability at all. This thing has a 4.6 litre petrol V8. It has plenty of power to handle the big tyres and the suspension lift, so it didn't have any trouble. It never seemed like it was running short of power to get the car up to the speed limit to maintain highway speeds, or even to overtake, as I did have to do on both of these first two runs. So guys, stick around. If you feel like subscribing, that'd be fantastic. It helps me out. It's encouragement to keep putting these fantastic videos out for you, and I will get cracking on part number 2 now. So we're going to chuck the roof rack back on, the drawers in the back, and I'll get the total weight for you, and we'll work out exactly what we've got weight wise that I've added to the car, and see if it makes a difference to how the car drives and to the fuel consumption. Now I did some sums for the weight of the vehicle standard. The gas tank is about 45 kilos. The battery and all this other stuff in there is about another 40 kilos, plus the spare wheel carrier is another 20. So I'm calling that 100 kilos over standard weight, just for reference for the fuel consumption numbers. It's about as close as I could get anyway. 100 kilos over standard weight. It's like having another person in the car basically while you're driving around. Before I get into part 3, when we go out and test out the difference in weight and the roof rack adds to the consumption numbers, I'm going to give you the actual numbers from part 1 and part 2 fuel consumption data. Okay, so for the standard run on the highway, we've already established 107 k's. The actual fuel consumption I got for that run was 14.49 litres per 100 kilometres. For the standard run around town, which we worked out was 48.5 kilometres, I got an average of 16.4 litres per 100. So the highway was a little bit worse than I remember it being. I remember being down around the 12s. So 14.4, a little bit more than I expected. Granted, I've got a little bit of weight in there that I couldn't get rid of. 16.14 around town. Now I'm not actually too sad by that. I think that's reasonably good. It still weighs 2.3, nearly 2.4 tonne standard. So that's a pretty good consumption number for around town. And then we got on to the 2-inch lift and 33-inch tyres. For the highway run, exact same run, 107 Ks, I got slightly better fuel consumption of 14.48, so that is 0.01 litres per 100 better. So I'm going to say there's no difference there. The driving was much the same. And for the around town run, which we've established was 48.5 kilometres, I averaged 16.93 litres per 100 kilometres. So that is about, just off these numbers here, it's about 0.7 litres per 100 worse around town with those big tyres. I don't think wind drag had much of an effect around town, seeing as the speeds were only probably getting up to around 60, at most 70 kilometres per hour. On the highway, so I did slightly better. I'm going to call that even. I haven't put the roof rack or anything on, so that was completely standard weight, just the tyres and the lift. So the 2-inch suspension lift may have played a little bit of a part in that. Could have been better if I didn't have the lift, but I mean, all in all, this is real world, or as close to as possible, so that's quite good. I've done up percentages difference in fuel consumption, which I will go through once I've done the remainder of the testing and can sit down and really knuckle down on the data with you. What I'm about to do now, I've got the roof rack, got the weight in, time to go out and test it out. So on top of the already 100 kilos that lives in the car standard, I've got the drawers full, that's 100 kilos right there. I've got the fridge in as well, which is about another 30 kilos. So there's 130 on top of the 100, that's 230 out of a dead standard. And that puts this thing about 200 kilos off GVM. The gas tank is empty, or mostly empty. So you can imagine if I was going camping, there'd be even more weight with the gas tank, about 65 litres of gas, as well as the camping weight, tent, pillows, food, all that kind of stuff in the fridge. So I've only got about 200 kilos to play with, and that includes my passengers and whatnot when I'm going camping. So food for thought when you load your car up, guys. Let's go ahead and do some more testing.